In the aftermath of the October 7th massacre, the political landscape across the Western world revealed a stark and growing divide. While much of the left seemed eager to scrutinize, chastise, and even outright demonize Israel, it has been the right, from Washington to Berlin to Buenos Aires, that has rushed to embrace the Jewish state. This right-wing love affair with Israel is no accident. It reflects a deep ideological realignment that goes far beyond Israel itself, exposing what the left has become and why Israel has become a lightning rod in the West's culture wars. Nowhere is this shift clearer than in the United States. During Donald Trump's first presidential term, from 2017 to 2021, Israel enjoyed unprecedented support, from recognizing Jerusalem as Israel's capital to greenlighting crucial arms transfers without precondition. Now, less than 2 months into his second stint in the White House, the Trump administration already announced that it is sending the heavy bombs withheld by the Biden administration, as well as billions worth of arms and military equipment to Israel. You may recall that Team Biden exerted heavy pressure on Israel during the war, repeatedly urging restraint, particularly in responding to Iran's direct attacks, and creating bureaucratic obstacles that delayed essential weapons shipments. Outgoing Israeli ambassador to the U.S., Michael Herzog, admitted last week. Herzog noted a double standard in Washington's approach. Once the Israeli response to Iran was successful in deterring further aggression, American officials tried to take credit for regional stability. He also painted a grim picture of hostile, woke elements within the U.S. State Department, the American Foreign Ministry, particularly those who sought to limit Israel's military operations and block key security decisions. Herzog told an Israeli newspaper, quote, "There are many within the State Department who are not just unfriendly to Israel, but outright hostile. Some actively work to block nearly every Israeli request. There was no formal arms embargo, but bureaucratic delays and political pressure slowed down deliveries at crucial moments." Meanwhile, he noted, Ukraine continued receiving American weapons without similar restrictions. This reflects more than just policy differences. Trump's America treats Israel as an ally attacked by a terror group, a fellow target of radical Islamist terror, and a natural partner for strong borders, national pride, and the defense of Western civilization. By contrast, Biden's America, similar to Obama's America, was riddled with woke ideologues at the U.S. State Department, Treasury Department, Department of Defense, and other government agencies who view Israel as a colonial oppressor, an emblem of everything they detest about nationalism, religion, and military power. Even the mechanisms of oversight have changed. Trump's team has also scrapped a Biden-era order requiring the U.S. to formally assess whether Israeli use of American weapons violates international law, a requirement pushed by the woke left to hamstring military aid to Israel. The same trend is visible across the Atlantic Ocean. Led by Friedrich Merz, the Christian Democratic Union, which just won the general election in Germany, has become one of Europe's strongest political voices in support of Israel. Merz not only visited Israel's embattled southern and northern regions after October 7th, but he also condemned the quiet embargo of defense exports to Israel under outgoing Chancellor Olaf Scholz. Merz pledged to reverse such policies and deepen Germany's commitment to Israel as a core national obligation, a core purpose for modern Germany itself. Merz has also made clear that Germany's doors would remain shut to Palestinian asylum seekers, arguing that, quote, "Germany already has too many anti-Semites." This is not merely hardline rhetoric. It's a clear statement that support for Israel and resistance to the Islamist and far-left coalition demonizing the Jewish state is now central to the right's political identity. In Latin America, the story is the same. Argentina's libertarian president, Javier Milei, wasted no time visiting Israel after October 7th. Last month, he declared 2 days of national mourning for Ariel and Kfir Bibas, Argentinian Israelis murdered in Hamas captivity. Milei's embrace of Israel isn't just about shared mourning. It's a broader declaration that Israel is a natural partner in the fight against tyranny, terrorism, and ideological fanaticism. All that said, this growing right-wing embrace of Israel demonstrates far more about the left than it does about the right. The left, once upon a time, styled itself as the champion of human rights, peace, and justice. Today, a growing faction of leftists has become the primary vehicle for anti-Israel activism, making clear that Israelis and Jews do not deserve the same human rights as others, elevating terror groups like Hamas into freedom fighters, even though they vehemently oppose peace, and recasting Israel's very existence as an unforgivable sin. In London, governed by Labour Party Mayor Sadiq Khan, anti-Israel demonstrations have become a near-weekly occurrence since October 7th, 2023, often with Hamas flags flying openly in the streets. Jews and other Londoners in the city center regularly fear for their safety, while the police turn a blind eye to incitement and intimidation. This isn't about genuine concern for Palestinians. It's about radical leftists and their co-conspirators using the Palestinian cause to wage their own war against the West. Truth be told, much of the Western left has hijacked the Palestinian cause for its own ideological ends. Palestinian lives themselves are of little interest. The goal is to use so-called Palestine as a cudgel to attack Israel, Zionism, Judaism, and the West itself. This is part of a broader ideological project to dismantle the foundations of Western civilization, including the idea of nation-states, religious identity, and cultural pride, all of which Israel embodies. The institutions that prop up this ideology form a well-oiled machine. Hamas is the military wing. The United Nations is the political wing. UNRWA, the UN agency for so-called Palestinian refugees, is the fundraising wing. Al Jazeera is the propaganda wing. World Central Kitchen is the welfare wing. The International Red Cross is the diplomatic wing, offering selective humanitarian cover. Amnesty International is the justice wing, fabricating legal narratives to frame Israel as a pariah. This ecosystem, nurtured by the Western left, has nothing to do with genuine peace or justice. It exists to isolate and ultimately dismantle the Jewish state just 80 years after the liberation of Nazi death camps and the murder of 6 million Jews between 1939 and 1945. The Palestinian flag, once a symbol of a localized territorial conflict, is now primarily a Western cultural icon, a way for leftists to signal their moral superiority. The demand for Palestinian statehood has been disconnected from actual Palestinian self-determination and has instead become a tool for leftists to virtue signal their opposition to colonialism, racism, and capitalism. The real question is no longer what's best for Palestinians, but what makes pro-Palestinian activists feel more righteous. This demonstrates profound cognitive corruption. Palestinians are no longer treated as people with agency, but as props in the West's self-loathing theater. Western activists would rather see Palestinians suffer indefinitely than acknowledge any solution that accepts the permanence of a Jewish state. This is the ultimate colonial act, appropriating Palestinian identity to serve a Western ideological narrative. Hence why the right loves Israel. Not because Israel's perfect, but because Israel's fight is the right's fight. A fight for sovereignty, for security, for survival. In a world where the left's ideological project seeks to erase borders, religions, and the single greatest mechanism that has pulled out the most amount of people from poverty, capitalism. For the right, Israel isn't just a country, it's a cause, a frontline outpost of Western civilization standing against the forces of jihad, globalism, and cultural self-destruction. The real story, though, isn't just the right's love affair with Israel. It's the left's pathological obsession with its demise, exposing the hollowness of the left's supposed commitment to peace, justice, and human rights. If you're wondering how all of this happened, we could start with the fact that the goalposts have been moved. On the whole, the left has become more radical, and the right has become more moderate. This doesn't mean that all leftists are radical, or that the right does not also have radical elements. It does. It simply means that the left has done a far worse job at keeping their radical elements in check, thus drowning out whatever logic, reason, and integrity remain in left-wing circles. In the end, the Western left's emerging dogma is a betrayal of Jews, who have largely supported leftist parties and causes. It's also a betrayal of something with much greater significance: the very values that leftists once claimed to uphold.